If you ever wake up at your campsite and notice one more tent than the night before, don't count them again. Just leave. Because if you count them twice, one of those tents might already belong to you. I didn't believe stories like that until last October. My name is Ethan. I'm 28 years old, and I was the only one who came back from Black Pine National Forest. The police said my friends got lost. The rangers blamed wild animals. But none of them ever asked the one question that actually mattered. Where did all those tents come from? Friday morning. It was supposed to be a simple weekend camping trip. Just 4 friends. Me, Jake, Ryan, and Mason. We had known each other since college. Every autumn, we escaped the city, turned off our phones, and spent a few days somewhere deep in nature. No hotels, no cabins, just tents. This year, Ryan found a remote campsite deep inside Black Pine National Forest. According to the map, almost nobody visited it anymore. That sounded perfect. 3 hours later, our truck left the highway and rolled onto a narrow dirt road. Tall pine trees swallowed the sunlight. The deeper we drove, the quieter everything became. No birds, no insects, nothing. Jake laughed nervously. Doesn't this place feel dead? Nobody answered, because we were all thinking the exact same thing.
After another 20 minutes, we reached the campsite. It was beautiful. A wide clearing surrounded by enormous pine trees. A small stream flowed nearby. Flat ground. Perfect for camping. Ryan smiled. Told you this place was worth the drive. We unloaded our gear. 4 tents, 4 sleeping bags, 4 backpacks. Everything accounted for. Mason even joked, if somebody gets lost here, nobody will ever find us. We all laughed. Looking back, that was probably the happiest moment of the entire trip.
Around sunset, an old forest ranger slowly drove into the clearing. His truck looked older than he was. He stepped out. Gray beard, weathered face, eyes that looked permanently exhausted. He glanced at our tents, then counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only then did he relax. He walked over quietly. "You boys planning to stay the weekend?" Ryan nodded. The ranger sighed. "If you wake up tomorrow, count your tents." Jake laughed. "We know how many we brought." The old man didn't smile. "No. You count them every morning. If there's ever more tents than people, don't open them." Nobody spoke. Ryan whispered after the ranger walked away. "Old guy probably enjoys scaring tourists." We all agreed. Or at least we pretended to. Darkness arrived faster than expected. We built a campfire, cooked hot dogs, played cards, shared old college stories. Everything finally felt normal again. Around midnight, the fire burned low. The temperature dropped. Wind moved gently through the trees. Then, we heard it. A zipper. Very slowly. Everyone froze. Jake looked toward the darkness. "Did one of you open your tent?" "No." Another zipper. Longer this time. From somewhere behind us.
Ryan grabbed his flashlight. The beam swept across the trees. Nothing. No animals, no people. Just darkness. Eventually, we convinced ourselves it was the wind. Around 1 a.m, we all went to sleep. I remember checking outside one last time. 4 tents. Exactly 4. I know that because I counted them.
The sunlight woke me early. The forest looked peaceful again. Birds were singing. The nightmare from the night before suddenly felt ridiculous. I crawled out of my tent. Ryan was already making coffee. Jake stretched beside the fire pit. Mason walked toward the stream. Then Ryan frowned. "Guys." Nobody answered. He slowly pointed toward the edge of the clearing. "Tell me, whose tent is that?" We turned together. Near the trees, about 30 feet from our camp, stood a dirty green tent. Old, covered in mud. Its fabric was faded by years of weather. None of us had seen it before. Silence. Jake forced a laugh. "Okay, very funny. Which one of you brought an extra tent?" Nobody spoke. Ryan looked at all 4 of us. "We only brought 4. I counted again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tents, but only 4 people. And then we noticed something that made every hair on my body stand up. There were no footprints leading to the 5th tent. Not ours, not an animal's, not anyone's. As if it had simply appeared there overnight. Nobody moved. The 4 of us just stood there, staring at the old green tent. It looked completely different from ours. Our tents were new, bright orange and gray, clean, modern. This one looked like it had survived years of rain. Its fabric was faded, almost white in some places. One corner had been patched together with black duct tape. The zipper was rusty. And hanging above the entrance was a tiny brass camping lantern. It swayed gently, even though there wasn't a single breath of wind. Ryan finally broke the silence. "Somebody's messing with us." Jake nodded. "Maybe another group camped here late last night?" I looked around the clearing. If that's true, where are they? Nobody answered. Because there was only one tent. No car, no fire pit, no coolers, no backpacks, no voices, no smoke, nothing. Just one lonely tent. Mason grabbed a thick tree branch. "I'm checking it." "Don't!" The word escaped my mouth before I even realized I'd spoken. Everyone looked at me. I don't know why. I just don't think we should. Jake rolled his eyes. "It's a tent, Ethan, not a haunted house." He laughed. Nobody else did. The 4 of us slowly walked closer. Every step felt heavier. The closer we got, the colder the air became. Ryan looked down. Guys, the grass around the tent was perfectly untouched. No footprints, no broken branches, no tire marks, nothing. It looked as if the tent had been lowered from the sky. We stopped a few feet away. Nobody wanted to touch it first. Finally, Jake grabbed the zipper. "You ready?"
Ryan shrugged. Mason tightened his grip on the branch. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. Jake pulled the zipper down, slowly. The sound echoed across the silent forest. He opened the flap, then froze. What? Ryan asked. Jake didn't answer. He simply stepped backward. His face had turned completely white. I pushed past him and looked inside. The tent was empty. Almost. There was an old sleeping bag, a rusted flashlight, a metal camping mug, a backpack covered in dust. And lying neatly in the middle was a faded photograph. Ryan picked it up carefully. It showed 4 young campers standing beside a fire, smiling, laughing, looking exactly like we had the night before. They're probably the people who owned this tent, Mason said. Then he stopped talking, because one of the faces looked familiar. Very familiar. Jake leaned closer. No, his voice cracked. No way. The man standing on the far left looked exactly like Ryan. Not similar. Exactly. Same face, same eyes, same scar above his eyebrow. The only difference was the clothes. The picture looked at least 30 years old. Ryan laughed nervously. That's impossible. It just looks like me. Nobody believed that. Not even Ryan. We searched the backpack. Inside, we found canned food, old batteries, a compass, a notebook. The leather cover crumbled in Ryan's hands. Most of the pages were damaged, but a few could still be read. The first readable page said, October 12th. We arrived with 4 tents. Everything feels normal. Ryan slowly turned the page. October 13. There are 5 tents now. Nobody admits bringing the extra one. Nobody spoke. Ryan turned another page. October 14. There are 6 tents. Tom wants to leave. The road keeps bringing us back. Jake looked at me. That's not funny anymore. Ryan kept reading. October 15. We opened the newest tent today. That was a mistake. The next several pages had been ripped out, as if someone had desperately tried to erase what happened. Only the final page remained. Its handwriting was shaky, barely readable, almost carved into the paper. It said only one sentence. Never let the number of tents become the number of people. Silence. No one understood what it meant until Mason counted out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tents. 4 people. He looked around nervously. What happens when there's 5 people? The question hung in the air. No one wanted to answer. Ryan suddenly zipped the notebook shut. We're leaving. Right now. Nobody argued. For the first time since we arrived, everyone agreed. Whatever this place was, we wanted nothing to do with it. We packed as fast as we could. Sleeping bags, food, backpacks, everything. Within 20 minutes, the truck was loaded. Ryan started the engine. We drove back toward the dirt road. Nobody spoke. The forest rushed past the windows. After nearly 40 minutes,
Jake looked outside, then whispered, "Guys?" Ryan frowned. "What?" Jake slowly pointed through the windshield. There, right in front of us, stood the exact same wooden sign. "Welcome to Black Pine Campground." The same sign we had passed almost an hour earlier. Ryan slammed on the brakes. Impossible. We had been driving in a straight line. There were no intersections, no turns, no wrong roads. Yet somehow, we were back at the campsite. Waiting for us were the tents. Ryan counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then his voice stopped because there was another one, a 6th tent, standing quietly between the trees. It hadn't been there when we left. No one said a word. The engine was still running, but none of us wanted to step outside. The campsite looked exactly as we'd left it. The dying campfire, our folding chairs, the cooler beside the fire pit. Even Mason's coffee mug was still sitting on the picnic table. It was as if we had never packed, never driven away, never left. Ryan slowly killed the engine. "I don't understand," he whispered. "We drove for 40 minutes. Jake checked his phone for the 100th time. Still, no signal, not a single bar. No GPS, no maps, nothing. The silence around us felt wrong. Forests are supposed to be noisy. Birds, wind, insects, something. But Black Pine had become completely silent. It felt like the entire forest was listening. Ryan grabbed the truck keys. "We're leaving on foot. No roads, no truck. We follow the stream south. The water has to lead somewhere." It made sense. Everyone agreed. Within minutes, we packed only the essentials: water, flashlights, food, first aid kit, and the old notebook. For some reason, none of us wanted to leave it behind. Before leaving, I looked back one last time. 6 tents, standing perfectly still. The newest one looked different. Unlike the others, its entrance was already open, just a few inches, like someone had just stepped inside. I looked away. I didn't tell the others. The stream was easy to follow, at first. Sunlight filtered through the tall pine trees. The air smelled damp. Everything almost felt normal again. Almost. Then Jake stopped walking. "Guys?" He pointed toward the mud beside the stream. Footprints. Fresh footprints. Bare feet. Large. Far larger than any normal person's. They emerged from the water, crossed the trail, and disappeared into the trees. There were only one set. Whatever had made them had been walking alone. Ryan forced a smile. Probably a hunter. Nobody believed him. "Hunters wear boots, not bare feet." We kept moving. Minutes turned into hours. The sun slowly sank lower. The stream continued. The forest never changed. Every tree looked identical. Every hill looked the same. Then Mason froze. "I know this place." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Mason pointed ahead. On the ground lay an empty can of beans. Next to it was one of Ryan's energy bar wrappers, the ones we'd thrown away that morning. Jake looked around. No, we've been here before. We had walked for nearly 4 hours in one direction, yet somehow we had made a perfect circle. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody tried to explain anything. Ryan punched a tree so hard his knuckles split open. "This isn't possible!" His voice echoed through the forest. Then something answered. Not words. A knock. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 Somewhere deep among the trees, everyone turned toward the sound. Nothing. Then 3 more knocks. This time, behind us. Jake whispered, "Who's out there?" No answer. Only silence. Then, another 3 knocks. Closer. Much closer. Mason gripped his flashlight so tightly his hand trembled. "We need to move. Fast." By the time darkness covered the forest, we had no choice. We couldn't keep walking. Ryan looked exhausted. Jake had twisted his ankle crossing the stream. So, against every instinct, we returned to the campsite. None of us wanted to. But somehow, it was easier to find the campsite than it was to find the way out. That realization terrified me more than anything. The tents were waiting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exactly where we'd left them. Ryan refused to count again. Instead, we rebuilt the fire. No one spoke during dinner. No one joked. Every one of us kept staring into the darkness between the trees, waiting, listening. Around midnight, the knocking returned. This time, it came from inside the campsite, not the forest. The sound was coming from the 6th tent. No one moved. The knocking stopped. For almost a minute, nothing happened. Then, a voice. Soft, weak, barely louder than a whisper. "Ethan." My blood froze. It sounded exactly like my younger sister. The same voice, the same gentle tone. Impossible. She was hundreds of miles away. Ryan looked at me. "You heard that too, right?" Before I could answer, another voice came. "Ryan?" This one sounded exactly like Ryan's father, who had died 3 years earlier. Ryan's face drained of color. He took one slow step toward the 6th tent. "No." I grabbed his arm. "Don't." Then the third voice came. "Mason?" It sounded like Mason's little daughter, crying. "Daddy, please help me." Mason broke. He pulled away from us and ran toward the tent. "Mason!" Jake shouted. But it was too late. Mason reached the entrance and disappeared inside. The crying stopped instantly. Silence. 5 seconds. 10, 20. Nothing. Ryan rushed forward. Mason! No answer. We reached the tent together. Ryan pulled the flap open. The beam from my flashlight swept across the inside. The tent was completely empty. No Mason, no footprints, no hole in the ground. Nothing. Just cold air. And one new object lying in the center. A faded photograph. Ryan picked it up with shaking hands. It showed 5 campers standing around a fire. 4 of them were us. The 5th was Mason, smiling, as if he'd been with that group for years. Nobody spoke. Ryan was still staring at the photograph. His hands were shaking so badly, the picture almost slipped from his fingers. 5 campers, 4 of us, and Mason. Except the Mason in the picture looked different, older. His beard was longer, his clothes were torn, his face was thinner, like he'd been surviving in the woods for months, maybe years. Jake whispered, "That picture wasn't here this morning." Ryan slowly nodded. It changed. No one argued, because we'd all seen it happen. Yesterday, the photograph showed 4 strangers. Today, it showed us. I opened the old notebook again. Most of the pages were unreadable, but something was different. New writing had appeared. Words that hadn't been there before. The ink looked fresh, as if someone had written them only minutes ago. It said, "When one joins the camp, the others still have a chance. When the tents equal the living, the forest closes forever." Jake frowned. What does that even mean? Before anyone could answer, we heard footsteps. Not running, walking. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Circling the campsite. But every time we pointed our flashlights toward the sound, there was nothing there. Only trees. Only darkness. Ryan shouted, "Who's there?" Silence. Then another voice answered. It sounded exactly like Mason. "I'm over here." We all turned. The voice came from behind the truck. Ryan ran toward it. Nothing. Then it came again. "I'm at the stream." We spun around. Empty. The voice kept moving, never staying in the same place twice. Always close enough to follow, never close enough to see. Jake grabbed Ryan's shoulder. "That's not Mason." Ryan didn't answer, because deep down, we all knew. Whatever was speaking had listened to Mason long enough to become him. The ranger returns. Just before sunrise, headlights appeared between the trees. An old pickup truck. The ranger. He stepped out. His face showed no surprise, as if he'd expected to find us there. He looked around the campsite, then counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His shoulders sank. "We're too late." Ryan stormed toward him. "You knew this would happen." The old man nodded. "I tried to warn you." Jake grabbed him by the jacket. "What is this place?" The ranger looked toward the trees, then spoke quietly. "Black Pine isn't a campground. It hasn't been one for almost 50 years. None of us moved. The old man continued. In 1974, a group of campers disappeared here. They searched for weeks. They never found a single body. Only their tents. He looked directly at us. One extra tent. Every morning. Ryan swallowed hard. Just like us. The ranger nodded. It has happened again and again for decades. Always the same. 4 campers, 5 tents, 6 tents, 7. He stopped. You know how many tents they found the last time? Nobody answered.
The ranger looked toward the forest. His voice dropped to a whisper. 38. I finally asked the question that had been haunting me. What creates the tents? The ranger didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed toward the oldest tent. The tents aren't appearing. They're being remembered. We stared at him. He continued. Every person who disappears leaves something behind. Not a body. Not bones. A place. A place waiting for the next person. Ryan looked confused. So, Mason? The ranger nodded slowly. He's part of the camp now. You'll hear his voice. You'll see his face. But you'll never see him again. Just then, a cold breeze swept through the campsite. Every tent began to move. Not because of the wind, from the inside. One, then another, then another. Canvas bulged outward, zippers rattled, as if someone was trying to get out, or trying to get in. Then all at once, every zipper began opening. Zip! 6 tents opening together. The ranger screamed, "Run!" Ryan grabbed my arm. Jake followed. We sprinted toward the truck. Behind us, we heard footsteps. Not one pair. Not 2. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Running through the trees. But when I looked over my shoulder, I saw no people. Only open tents. Standing empty. Waiting. We ran. None of us looked back. Branches tore at our clothes. Our flashlights bounced wildly through the darkness. Behind us, the sound of footsteps kept getting closer. Not one person, not 10. Hundreds. It sounded like an entire crowd was chasing us through the forest. But every time I looked over my shoulder, I saw nothing. Only empty trees. And flashes of pale canvas between them. The tents. They weren't staying in the campsite anymore. They were moving. Ryan unlocked the truck with shaking hands. "Get in!" Jake jumped into the back seat. I climbed into the passenger seat. Ryan slammed the accelerator to the floor. The truck shot down the dirt road. For the first time, we weren't turning around. We weren't stopping. We just drove. Faster and faster. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The forest finally began to thin. For the first time in 2 days,
We saw sunlight breaking through the trees. Jake laughed. We made it. Ryan smiled for the first time since we'd arrived. I think we're actually out. Then, the engine died. Silence. The truck rolled to a stop, right in the middle of the road. Ryan tried to restart it. Nothing. Again. Nothing. The battery was dead. Impossible. It had been running perfectly seconds earlier. Then, three slow knocks from inside the truck. Not outside. Inside. Jake turned slowly toward the back seat. His smile disappeared. Ethan, he whispered, don't move. I looked into the rearview mirror. The back seat was no longer empty. Someone was sitting beside Jake. A man, covered in mud, wearing old camping clothes. His face remained hidden beneath the hood. Neither Ryan nor Jake dared to breathe. Then, the man slowly raised one finger and pointed through the windshield. We looked ahead. About 50 meters away stood a single green tent in the middle of the road, waiting. Ryan whispered, "No." He stepped on the brake by instinct, even though the truck had already stopped. The hooded man was gone. The back seat was empty again. Jake grabbed the door handle. "I'm getting out." Before anyone could stop him, he ran, straight toward the forest. "Jake!" Ryan shouted. I chased after him. But he disappeared between the trees within seconds. His flashlight vanished. His footsteps stopped. Then his voice echoed through the forest. "I'm okay." It sounded normal, almost cheerful. Ryan started running toward the voice. Something felt wrong, very wrong. I grabbed his arm. "Listen." The same voice came again. "I'm over here!" This time, it came from a completely different direction. Then another. "I'm right behind you!" Then another. "I'm at the truck!" The same voice, speaking from everywhere at once. Ryan's face turned white. That's not Jake. The forest became silent again. Seconds later, we heard a zipper. Then another. Then another. One after another. Until the entire forest sounded like hundreds of tents opening at the same time. Ryan looked at me. "We have to keep moving." We walked. Slowly. Carefully. Until the trees finally ended. Ahead of us was the highway. Real traffic. Real people. A passing pickup truck stopped. The driver rolled down his window. "You boys all right?" Ryan almost cried with relief. "We need help." The driver looked confused. "Where's your friend?" Ryan answered immediately. "There were 4 of us." The driver frowned. "No, there were 3. Ryan and I looked at each other. "What are you talking about?" The driver pointed toward the campsite behind us. "I saw 3 guys setting up camp yesterday." Ryan laughed nervously. "No, there were 4. The driver shrugged. "I've lived here 30 years. I only saw 3. Ryan turned toward me. His face slowly changed. "Ethan, how many people came with us?" I answered instantly. 4. Ryan nodded. "Name them." I smiled. "You, Jake, Mason." Then my mind went blank. There should have been one more name, my own. But for one horrifying second, I couldn't remember it. Not even my own name. The driver interrupted us. "You boys should leave before sunset." Ryan looked back toward the forest. The trees were perfectly still, as if nothing had ever happened. 3 weeks later, the police searched Black Pine National Forest for 12 days. They found Ryan's truck, our equipment, the campsite, 4 tents. Exactly 4. No 5th tent, no 6th, no notebook, no photographs, nothing. Jake and Mason were officially listed as missing. Ryan and I were the only survivors. At least, that's what everyone believed. Months passed. I tried to move on. I stopped camping. I avoided forests. I never told anyone the full story because nobody would have believed me. Then, one rainy evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole. Nobody. I opened the door anyway. The hallway was empty. Except for one thing. An old photograph lying on the floor. I picked it up. It showed a campsite. Rows of old tents. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Standing beneath the pine trees. And near the very back, I saw myself. Older. Thinner. Wearing torn camping clothes. Standing beside a green tent. Smiling. As if I'd been living there. For years. I turned the photograph over. Only 6 handwritten words appeared on the back. "We'll save your tent for you." Count them before you go to sleep. Now tell me, how many tents did you count? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to subscribe for more psychological horror. Until next time, sleep carefully.